Hello everyone, it's Rachel again. So many of you have been asking me about the student accommodation. So today I'll be sharing everything that you need to know about all the accommodation options when you're studying in UK. Generally, we can list accommodation into three groups. The first one is the university halls, which are the most popular one. And the second option is private student accommodation. And the third one is share houses or the share apartments. University halls are usually near the school campus. So in the University of Manchester, most of the halls are in walking distance, but of course there are a lot of accommodation which are in Fellowfield, which is 10 minutes by bus to the school. I would say if you don't mind sharing bathroom or sharing kitchen with other people, I think uni halls are the best because they are usually cheaper than other private accommodation. And the good point is, well, I wouldn't say it's a good point, depend on the people perspective, but most of the university hall give like a Hogwarts vibes. So one of my friends live in St. Elson Hall of University of Manchester, and it is really giving the Harry Potter vibe. They have hall libraries, private study rooms, reception, student services, and everything in that big place. I even did one podcast for my friends here, and that's in St. Elson Hall because the room is so aesthetic. Also, some of the halls are cater halls, which means they provide breakfast and dinner on weekdays. So in my opinion, good points about university halls are: one, they have like social events and flat parties where you'll make a lot of friends and create memories. Two, as I mentioned before, they have a cater option, which is good if you don't want to cook. And even better, they have formal dinner where students wear the black gown, and this is given like the absolute Harry Potter vibe. Well, there are also some downside, and number one is some of the buildings are a bit old. So if you like modernized building, then some of the rooms are not for you. Alright, let's go to our second accommodation option, which is private student accommodation. These are the ones that private companies rent out the rooms for students to use. Most of the rooms are en-suite, studios, and one-bed apartments, which are the most common room types that the international students rent. If you're interested in private accommodation, I found one website where you can search and book best quality private accommodation, and that's called for students. Emma is a platform which through students can book accommodation near their university. As Southeast Asia's largest student accommodation provider, they're currently operating in 100 plus cities in Australia, UK, Europe, and the United States with more than 20,000 listings on their platform. They have share rooms, en-suites, and studios which are conveniently located near the major universities or in and around the city center. And their rental prices also include utilities like electricity and water. And the good thing is they have a transparent pricing, providing clear and upfront information about the costs associated with each accommodation. No hidden fees, no unexpected charges, as well as the clear cancellation policy in case you change your mind. They also have 24/7 customer support to assist students with any questions or concerns during the search and the booking process. And lastly, they have 4.8 star rating on Trustpilot, so that's a really good and reputable website to book your private accommodation. Now let's talk about the good things of private accommodation. One, rooms are modernized, and some of the buildings are high-rise buildings, which means you will see the incredible skyline and the city views from the higher floor. And just like university hall, private accommodation also have events and activities, but the only thing is, I feel like most students living in private accommodation do not really participate in those social events. Also, another good thing is private accommodation have gyms, cinema rooms, and some even have the cleaning service, so it's like a mini hotel rather than like a student accommodation. But of course, the more services or the more facilities they have, the more expensive the rooms are. But there are also things that I don't like about the private accommodation. One, it's a bit pricey, and some of the rooms are a bit small, so it's not really worth the price. I also think that some of the accommodations are expensive because of their facilities like gym or cinema. Well, it's quite reasonable if you use those gym or cinema, but if you don't plan to use those facilities, you can find other accommodation that are like less expensive and have much bigger rooms. My apartment, which I stayed last year, has a gym, but I only went there like 2-3 times, so it's not really worth the price for someone like me. Alright, here comes the last option, which is share houses or share apartments. This is the option where a group of friends, like 2 or 3 friends, rent the whole house or rent the whole 2 or 3 bedroom apartment and share the space together. People normally do this in their second year when they got friends they want to share the house with. Good thing about this option is that share houses are quite cheap and will cost you only around 500 per month, so it can be considered as a budget-friendly option. But the only downside is if you do not book from the trusted site, you might get scammed and could lose deposit fee. I've heard some of the bad experiences where the landlord asked my friend to send the deposit before the room viewing, and once he got the money, he blocked my friend's phone number. cheaper. Also, unlike student accommodation, most of these share houses do not have broadband or bills included in the rent, so you might have to manage those by yourself. So that's a bit about the 3 accommodation options. So what about the room types and rent? Generally, we can say that there are also 3 room types. First one is the single room with shared bathroom and shared kitchen. Second one are the ensuite rooms where you can get your own bathroom but with the shared kitchen with your flatmates. And the third one is the studio or the one-bed apartment where you have everything like your own bathroom and the small kitchen attached in your room already. Single rooms are the most affordable and like the cheapest option, and the rent is usually around £500 to £700 per month. But if you're not comfortable sharing toilets or bathroom with other people, then I think option 2 is for you, which are the ensuite rooms. And ensuite rooms are the most students go-to options, whether they live in private accommodation or the university hall. Cost is usually around £600, £700 to £900. And the third option is the studio or the one-bed apartment, which is the most suitable ones if you're not very comfortable sharing things with other people or if you just want some privacy. I've been living in studios since I arrived in the UK and I have no problem with that. If you're not scared of living alone, this option is definitely for you. But like I said, this option is the most expensive. The rent is usually around £800 to £1,000 per month. Also, please note that the rent is not same from one city to another. What I've mentioned in this video is just like average cost from big cities like Birmingham or Manchester. It could be lower in small cities. Also, it could be up in big cities like London. The prices may vary according to the location. For example, if you're living in city center, it could be more expensive. Now let me give you some useful tips before we wrap up this whole video. Tip 1 is if you're thinking of living in private accommodation, you should book the room as early as possible. Some years ago, when I was looking for the private accommodation in March for the September move-in, all the good accommodation was sold up. And so please plan as early as possible and just pay the holding deposit. Another tip is to review your accommodation inventory, and actually this is something that you should do once you get into the house. In most accommodation, you will typically receive a document called inventory, which outlines the current condition of the apartment that you are about to move in. Although this may seem a bit time consuming, take a video of the whole room or take a lot of pictures of the whole room. And if there are any damages like a broken glass window or anything's broken, send a picture and email it to your landlord as soon as possible so that you can prevent the risk of losing your deposit or to show evidence if your landlord attempts to charge you. And lastly, beware of scams. Book your rooms from the trusted source or the trusted website. Also, if you cannot view the room, do a virtual viewing or ask your friend for help and let them look around the space before actually renting it and before actually paying the deposit. Alright, now I hope you know some of the tips for finding student accommodation in UK. I'll also attach the Amber student website in the description below. You can also check these videos if you want to know what the private student accommodation looks like. Anyway, that's it for today and see you in next video. Bye bye!